Sometimes, if not kind of regularly, the most profound questions that we can ask as humans are the simplest ones. Like, who am I? Or why is there suffering? Why is there evil in the world and inside me? Who is God? And I just want to reflect with you a little bit about that first question, who am I? I don't know, have you ever asked that question? And there's different ways that you can ask that question. Sometimes when things are in crisis and you have no idea what to do, and you don't know what your next steps are, and you kind of feel like your whole world is upturned. Maybe you can even feel that way now, or you're on the verge of retirement, or you've had a major injury or something like that, and you can just who am I? Jean Valjean in Les Mis has an opportunity to become free, but then some man is going to be condemned that shouldn't be condemned, and he has to confront himself and ask, who am I? That's one way you can ask that really amazing question of, who am I? Another way that you can ask that question is actually not when you're in crisis, but when something so good happens to you that's almost like a surprise. And it's not proportionate to anything that you can sense that you deserve. And you're just like, oh, who am I that I get to see Pope Francis? Or who am I that I get to have dinner with Father Ben? Just kidding. Just kidding. Totally kidding on that one. Maybe you've had this experience where all of a sudden you find yourself backstage with your favorite artist or a super awesome athlete that you really like, and it doesn't seem like you deserve it at all, but it just kind of comes to you as this unmerited gift, and you're like, who am I that I get to do this? Maybe you've even felt this way when you fell in love and you're journeying towards marriage, and you're like, who am I that this person has come into my life? And we can feel this way with God too. Here we are, we're at the Transfiguration. And who is there? Jesus, and he invites 3 people, Peter, James, and John. I just want to focus with you on one of those 3, Peter. And if you think back about 4 years ago in Peter's life at that point, what was he up to? And no offense to fishermen, he was cleaning fish. He was throwing nets into a lake. He was probably wondering, when's the next good catch for my family? And day after day, he's throwing nets and catching fish, or throwing nets and not catching fish. And then he's cleaning fish guts and going to market. And all of a sudden, God steps into his life and says, follow me. Come after me. And you could almost wonder, Peter just goes, wait, who am I that you would call me? I'm just cleaning fish. I'm just throwing nets into the lake. Who am I? But Peter doesn't let his unworthiness get in the way, because Jesus doesn't let him. He even says to Jesus, depart from me, I'm a sinful man. God comes to him and says, hey, you follow me. And he's like, me? Don't you know who I am? I know who I am. I'm a sinner. And Jesus says, I will make you fishers of men. And so he lays down his work, even though it's like, wow, I wasn't expecting this, and he begins to follow Jesus. And I wonder, do you think he was going up this mountain when he sees Jesus' face transfigured? If he was just like, wait, who am I that I get to see God's face transfigured? I mean, 4 years ago, I was cleaning fish guts. That's just one thing. You and I, sometimes we can feel like we're disqualified based on our past accomplishments, based on our work. Like I have to do a certain kind of work in order for God to call me. I have to do important work. I have to do prestigious work. And if I'm not doing a certain type of work, I'm disqualified from following Jesus. So that's one thing. The second thing, I wonder if was in Peter's heart, even more profoundly, because it was so much more close, was what happened like a week prior to this experience. A week prior to him going up on the mountain, Peter receives the keys of the kingdom from Jesus, and then Jesus says, I'm going to suffer, and I'm going to die, and I'm going to rise from the dead. And Peter says to Jesus, God forbid that would ever happen to you, Jesus. And Jesus says to him, get behind me, Satan. You are thinking as human beings do, not as God does. So here's this man, he's given up everything, he's following him closely, and now he just was called the devil. And you gotta kind of feel like that was a pretty big failure on Peter's part. Ooh, like I really put my foot in my mouth there. And I wonder if that was still on his heart. Like, I really messed up. I shouldn't have said that. I wish I had said something else. I wish I just could have kept my mouth shut. And now he finds himself up on the mountain, seeing Jesus' face transfigured. And do you just wonder if Peter went, who am I that I get to see God's face transfigured? Doesn't Jesus know what I just did? You see, you and I, we can sometimes disqualify ourselves based on our failures. Like, God can't do anything good more for me because I messed up. You know, like, if God just knew who I was, he would know that he should stop giving good things to me. If God just knew who I was, he shouldn't make his face shine on me anymore. Shouldn't give me any more blessings. Maybe he should just abandon me. Because I'm kind of abandoning myself. And Jesus doesn't do that to Peter. He actually says, Peter, like, I know you have in your heart this experience that we just had, this really hard conversation that we just had a week ago, but I want to show you something. I don't give in that way. I don't stay faithful in that way. I have more for you, Peter, even though you don't deserve it. Peter, I don't give just because you deserve. This is what St. Paul is getting at in that reading. He said, God saved us not because of our works, but because of grace. God just gives you and me grace. A second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance, a thousandth chance. How many times does Peter get a mess up and then Jesus give him another chance? Like again and again. This is why we love St. Peter so much. So today, maybe you found yourself stuck. I should be somewhere else. I did it again. I failed again. I might as well just put my head down and just kind of trudge through life. But Jesus goes like this to Peter. Peter, look at me. Look at my face. It's glowing. I haven't written you off. My love for you has not changed. because of what you did. You can start again. And so Peter gets to come down from the mountain, and he gets to hold both of those things in tension. I failed, and I'm loved. I failed, and I'm loved. And that heals Peter. And he would never forget that face. He would never forget that face. So you and I, we're not disqualified based on our past. We're not disqualified based on our occupation. He can actually come to you and change your life, and then maybe, like Peter, you can say, wait, who am I? That God would save me.